Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll be reading from chapter 17, Pururavas Dynasty, from the Canto 9 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Mukam Kroti Vachalam Pangum Langete Girim Yat Kripatam Vande Shri Gurum Devtarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Having said all he wanted about Vijay's dynasty, Shukadev next focused his attention on the lineage of Pururava's eldest son. He said Pururava and Urvashi's eldest son Ayu had 5 powerful sons: Nahush, Kshatra, Vridha, Raji, Rabhu, and Anina. The sage listed Kshatra Vridha's descendants, including Dhanvantari, an incarnation of Krishna, who inaugurated medical science. He told Parikshit that by remembering Dhanvantari's name, one could be healed of all diseases. Five generations after Dhanvantari, a king named Alarka ruled over the earth for 66,000 years, the longest anyone has reigned. Shukadev then listed another 10 generations of kings descending from Ayu, ending with Bharga. He specifically focused on the descendants of Kshatra Vridha's oldest son Kashi. Next, he briefly listed 4 generations of another of Ayu's son Rabha before naming 4 generations descending from another of his sons Anena. The last was Shantaraja, a self-realized soul expert in performing Vedic rituals who had no progeny. Next, Shukadev spoke of Ayu's other son Raji, who had 500 powerful sons. Shukadev explained how once, after being defeated by the Asuras, Indra had sought Raji's protection. Raji defeated the Asuras in battle and returned Amravati to Indra. However, fearful of demons such as Prahlad, Indra took shelter of Raji and asked him to remain as the king of heaven. Later, after Raji's death, Indra asked Raji's 500 sons to return the heavenly planets to him, but they refused. Our father ruled the heavens and we are his rightful heirs, they pronounced. Why should we give Indra our paternal property? Out of our magnanimity, however, we will give Indra his share of the offerings made in sacrifice. Indra, unhappy with this arrangement, complained to his spiritual master Brihaspati. Brihaspati told Indra that while Raji's sons upheld religious principles, defeating them would not be possible. Brihaspati then performed a ritual fire sacrifice to bring about the moral degradation of Raji's 500 sons. Later, Indra easily killed all 500 brothers when they transgressed religious principles. Shukadev then briefly listed 8 generations descending from another of Kshatra Vridha's sons, Kusha, before returning to the descendants of Ayu's oldest son, Nahush. So this was a short chapter, so let's start chapter 18 also, Yayati and Devayani. Shukadev continued, O king, do you remember I told you Indra hid in the cluster of lotuses in Lake Manasa? Parikshit nodded. I also mentioned that during Indra's absence from heaven, the gods asked Nahusha, a righteous earthly king, to take Indra's post temporarily. Yes, I remember that as well. Well, this Nahusha was Ayu's eldest son and a grandson of Pururava and Urvashi. Shukadev briefly spoke of Nahusha's progeny before becoming the king of heaven. Nahush conceived 6 sons who were as close to him as the 6 senses. Their names were Yati, Yayati, Samyati, Ayati, Vyati, and Kirti. Nahush initially wanted his eldest son Yati to succeed him. However, Yati declined. He was only interested in self-realization and feared that becoming the king would hamper his spiritual progress. After Nahush tried to molest Indra's wife and was cursed to become a python, his second son Yayati became the king. Yayati engaged his 4 younger brothers in helping him rule the kingdom. He married Shukra's daughter Devyani and Vishwaparva's daughter Sharmishtha. So Yayati had 2 wives, Devyani and Sharmishtha, and ruled over the entire earth as its emperor. On hearing that Yayati married Shukra's daughter, Parikshit was surprised. He said Shukra was a powerful Brahmin and Yayati was Kshatriya. Therefore, I am curious how this irregular marriage occurred between a Kshatriya man and a Brahmin woman. Shukadev said, I will explain. One day, Sharmishta, Devyani and 1,000 of their girlfriends were walking together in the palace gardens. The garden, full of lotuses and colorful trees, was inhabited by chorusing birds and humming bees. Sharmishta affectionately took Devyani's hand. "I am so glad you decided to join us today." "So am I," laughed Devyani. Hitching up their dresses, some girls climbed fruit trees and later shared their mangoes, jackfruit, avocado, and sapota pickings. Others stood tiptoe to pick various fragrant flowers to decorate their hairs. After a while, Devyani complained of the heat. "Is there anyone where we can cool down? Is there anywhere we can cool down?" Sharmishta giggled. "We can slip through a gap in the garden wall and go to a nearby lake for a swim." "You mean leave the palace compound? We go there most days. It's very safe." Devyani clapped her hands delightedly and laughed. "Oh, let's go," she said. Sharmishta skipped ahead of the excited girls to the stone boundary of her father's palace gardens and removed some loose boulders from the walls. Quickly she revealed a hole large enough for the girls to climb through. When the party reached the lake, they left their clothes on the bank before entering the water to play. As they splashed each other, they spotted Lord Shiva passing by, seated on the back of a bull with his wife Parvati. Ashamed to be seen naked, the girls clambered out of the water and covered themselves with their garments. In her haste, Sharmishta mistakenly grabbed Devyani's clothes. Just before she reached them, Devyani tried to seize them back. But Sharmishta pushed her away, and angered by this, Devyani said, "Oh, just see the behavior of this servant maid." Sharmishta, disregarding all etiquette, "She has put on my dress like a dog snatching clarified butter meant for use in the sacrifice." Hurt and confused by Devayani's unexpected kindness, Sharmishta snapped back, "What's your problem? I made a simple mistake. You could have put on my clothes." Working herself into a rage, Devyani stamped her feet and snatched back her clothes. "How do you expect me to wear your clothes? I was born in sage Bhrigu's dynasty and to one of the most exalted Brahmin families in the universe. All, including your father, worship us." She turned to address the other girls. "Although her father is one of our disciples, she wears my clothes. She is no better than a Shudra trying to study the Vedas." The other girls giggled. Facing such humiliation, Sharmishta turned bright red, breathing heavily like a serpent and biting her lower lip. She rebuked Devyani. "Don't unnecessarily talk so much, you beggar. How dare you call me a beggar? Don't you know your father come to our house in the hope we will provide for you? You remind me of crows waiting for throwaways." She tried to snatch back Devyani's clothes. The two rolled on the ground, each pulling at the cloth. The other girls began crying, calling to them to stop. Finally, after a vicious skirmish, Sharmishta stood up and ran off, holding Devyani's clothes. Dazed and bruised, Devyani followed, hurling abuse at her. Reaching a nearby well, Sharmishta stopped to dress as she hurriedly tried to put on Devyani's clothes again. The hysterical Devyani caught up with her, and another skirmish started around the well. In great fury, Sharmishta wrestled Devyani up against the wall of the well and pushed her over the edge. The other girls ran forward, crying, "Princess Sharmishta, you have killed Devyani." Fearfully, they all peered over to the side of the well. Devyani lay at the bottom in a heap like a broken puppet. Breathing heavily, Sharmishta haughtily replied, "She deserved to die. If you mention this to anyone, I will also have your heads too." Then she returned to home. After a few hours, Devyani regained consciousness, hurting and humiliated. She wept uncontrollably at the bottom of the well. Meanwhile, King Yayati had been out on a hunting expedition. He spotted the well and approached it to study his thirst. Peering down, he saw a naked maiden standing silently at the bottom. Not wanting to embarrass her, he stepped away from the well and removed a length of a rope from his saddle. He threw the rope and upper garment over the side of the well and called out, "I am Emperor Yayati. Dear lady, please tie the rope around your slender waist and I shall pull you out." Devayani wrapped the king's upper garment around herself and tied the rope around her waist. "Oh hero, please pull me out," she called up. Tying one end of the rope to his horse, he carefully pulled Devyani up, and as she rose to the top, he caught her hand with his own and lifted her out. Weakened by her ordeal and greatly relieved at being rescued, Devyani collapsed into the emperor's arms, wearily placing her head on his chest. He held her gently until she felt strong enough to stand up unaided. He then respectfully addressed her, "Dear maiden, if you tell me who and whose you are, I will return you safely to your home." Moved by his chivalry, Devayani was love-struck. "O great hero, O conqueror of your enemies, I am Devayani, the daughter of the greatly learned sage Shukra. I am not yet married, but since you have held my hand by divine ordainment, let me not now be touched by another. Supreme Providence has arranged our relationship as husband and wife, not any human being." Right, where were we? I'm not. O great hero, O king, conqueror of your enemies, I am Devayani, the daughter of the greatly learned sage Shukra. I am not yet married, but since you have held my hand by divine ordainment, let me not now be touched by another. She said, "Supreme Providence has arranged our relationship as husband and wife, not any human being." Yayati looked at the beautiful Devayani. She was certainly desirable. However, knowing she was Shukra's daughter, he hesitated to accept her request. "My dear charming lady, what man would not feel privileged to have such a delightful girl as his wife? However, our union is not sanctioned by scripture. You are the daughter of a highly respectful Brahmin, and I am mere royalty. I am not worthy of you." Yati stepped closer to him and took his hand in both of hers. "Listen, Brihaspati's son. Kacha came to my father's school, and a while back he wanted to learn how to bring the dead back to life. I became attracted to him, and he desired to become his wife. Because I am his teacher's daughter, Kacha considered me his superior and declined to marry me. I thus foolishly cursed him that the knowledge he had learned from my father would be useless to him. He retaliated by cursing me never to have a Brahmin as my husband. Therefore, mighty armed one, I cannot become a Brahman's wife. O hero, because of falling in the well, I met you. Indeed, our union has been arranged by the Lord's will. Now, do you understand?" Yayati looked at her thoughtfully. "Perhaps she was right," he said. "O lady of great beauty, no, I can never act irreligiously. Therefore, if your father offers me your hand, I will accept you." Yayati escorted Devayani to the entrance of her father's ashram and then departed. Once he had left, the trauma of her day overwhelmed by her, and she ran crying to her father. "My dear father, what is the matter? What happened to you?" asked Shukra. Through her sobs, Devayani explained to her father how Sharmishta had thrown her into the well and how Emperor Yayati had saved him. Shukra felt increasingly happy as he listened to his daughter's pitiful state. "How wretched are those Brahmins who earn their livelihood as priests for other men," he declared. "How much happier are those who live by collecting grains from the fields." Turning to Devayani, he said, "My dear daughter, go and dress properly. We shall go to King's house, King Vishwarupa's palace. Let us see who the beggar, Vishwaparva's palace, sorry. Let us see who the beggar is." Meanwhile, one of the king's spies hurried to inform him of Shukra's displeasure. "My lord, your spiritual master is greatly angered. He will be there soon. He is so upset. I fear he may even curse you." Alarmed, King Vishwaparva ran from his palace and hurried towards Shukra's residence. On seeing Shukra walking his way, Vishwaparva fell at his feet before his citizens. "Highly revered sage, I am your servant. Pray tell me what has angered you." Alarmed, King Vishwaparva ran from his palace and hurried towards Shukra's residence. On seeing Shukra walk this way, Vishwaparva fell at his feet before his citizens. "Highly revered sage, I am your servant. Pray tell me what has angered you." Looking down at his disciple, Shukra felt appeased and refrained from uttering a curse. Instead, he said, "I will no longer stay where my family and I are insulted. I am leaving for the forest. You may find yourself another priest." Vishwaparva's repeatedly begged Shukra not to go. "We will be lost without your word. All our good fortune depends on you." Slowly Shukra came around. Finally he said, "O king, whether I stay or go depends on my daughter, for in this world she is the most dear to me. I cannot live where she is not happy. I suggest therefore you walk her You ask her what she desires. Vishparva bowed to Devayani, who stood next to the powerful preacher. To the powerful father, respectful lady, please command me, your servant. Her head held Devayani and the king. Her head held high, Devayani said, King Vishparva, whenever I marry by my father's orders, Sharmishta must go with me as my servant, along with 1,000 maid servants. Immediately, Vishparva understood that hostility must have arisen between Devayani and his much-loved daughter. Besides, Devayani would surely make Sharmishta's life miserable or unbearable. Still, what could he do? If he refused, Shukra would undoubtedly leave without help. Without his help, the gods would easily defeat the demons. By letting this one daughter go, even if she had to suffer, he would please his spiritual master and continue to enjoy prosperity. Vishnuparva bowed low before Devayani could reply. Vishnu bowed low before Devayani and replied, As you wish, blessed one. Later that week, Shukra went with Devayani to Yayati's palace to offer the emperor his daughter's hand. Sharmishta accompanied Devayani as his servant, and when Yayati Sharmishta accompanied then Devayani as her servant, and when Yayati Sharmishta accompanied Devayani as her servant. When Yayati accepted his proposal to marry Devayani, when Sharmishta accompanied Devayani as a servant, when Yayati accepted his proposal to marry Devayani, Shukra pointed at Sharmishta and said, Although this girl will accompany her mistresses to your palace, make sure that you never lie with her. The following year, Devayani gave birth to a handsome boy. Seeing her happiness, Sharmishta developed a longing to have a child. She waited until the appropriate time for conception, and then she approached Yayati in private. Yayati would rise early before sunrise, and while his wife slept, he would practice yoga in the secluded section of the Vedic. He practiced yoga in a secluded section of the palace gardens. On one side, occasionally, Sharmishta Palace approached him and asked that he impregnate her. Remembering Shukra's word, Yayati at first declined. Dear girl, I dare not accept this request. Shukra's command binds me. A king must never be a model of right behavior for his citizens. How then can I become untruthful? It is said that in matters of love and marriage, one may sometimes speak lies. And Sharmishta, surely no sin will be moved in our union. As much as you are Devayani's son, so you are mine. I am her servant. Yayati still looked doubtful, but Sharmishta persisted. Taking his hand in her own, she pressed it to her bosom. My lord, I am a Kshatriya princess and desire worthy Kshatriya's son. I am in my season and surely not irreligious to lay with me. Indeed, to refuse me now would be a transgression, mortality. I will never ever tell you are the father of my child, Sharmishta reassured. I asked if I will tell her the father's someone else. Convinced by Sharmishta's words and his passion now rising, Yayati lay with Sharmishta. When her pregnancy became apparent in due course, Devayani became very disturbed. My dear friend, I can see you are with child. Who is the father? A certain rishi of high soul and great splendor. great splendor, come to me, and I have solicited him to give me a virtuous child, said Sharmishta. Devayani asked the same name of the Rishi, and Sharmishta said, such was his great effulgence and power like the second sun that I did not feel the mood to need to ask him. Devayani believed her and did not bring up the subject again. Such was Devayani's name of the Rishi, and Sharmishta said, such was the great effulgence and power like a second sun that I did not feel the need to even ask him. Devayani believed her and did not bring up the subject again, but absorbed herself in raising her son, Yadu. Soon she gave birth to her second son, Turvasu. Sharmishta gave birth to a boy named Dhruhiyu, and over the next 2 years she approached Yayati on 2 more occasions. She gave birth to and 2 more powerful sons from those 2 unions with him. Anu and Puru, each time Devayani challenged her who the father was, Sharmishta, and she had approached an unknown rishi to father the child. Some years later, Devayani noticed that one of the court Brahmins would go to Sharmishta's quarters daily, thinking he might be the father of Sharmishta's son. She stopped him to ask. He looked surprised. No, my lady, I'm merely their teacher. Why are you taking so much trouble to educate a maidservant's son? Because they also happen to be the emperor's sons. Devayani fainted when she came to. She was lying on a bed with Yayati sitting by her side, looking very concerned. Thank Vishnu that you are all right now. To his surprise, Yayati angrily, no, you have cheated me, you liar. You could have had any woman by her. Have you no control of your lust? What are you talking about? No point lying any longer. The Brahmin you appointed as a teacher told me you are the father of Sharmishta's sons. She called for her servant, prepare my carriage immediately. Yati tried every means to assuage her anger. He praised her beauty, massaged her feet, and repeatedly reassured her that she was the only love of his life. She pushed him away. Don't touch me, you liar. Weeping uncontrollably, Devayani ran to her waiting carriage, followed by her apprehensive husband. On arriving at father's home, Yayati leapt from his stallion and tried to restrain Devayani from dismounting. Beloved, wait, let me explain. Shukra's disciples, hearing the commotion, hurried over to protect Devayani, what is the matter with you? No, before that, there's another line. Unhand her, one of them ordered. Just then, Shukra came out of his residence. Devayani, what is the matter with you? Seeing him, Devayani's heart broke down in uncontrollable tears. Shukra held her comfortingly in his arms, looking quizzically at the sheepish Yayati. Tell me, dear, what is the matter? Shukra's face darkened in anger, and he Yati stood frozen. You untruthful fool, lusting after women, you have done a great wrong. I curse you to be attacked and disfigured by old age and invalidity. So this was Shukra's curse to King Yati. Yati stood frozen to the spot, his anger aghast, his body rapidly aging, his full dark hair turned grey and fell out, his muscular frame becoming stooped and emaciated, his face began dropping and became pine-lined, lifting his bony hands to Okay, I've just lost the page here. Yeah. So Yayati stood frozen to the spot, his face aghast, his body rapidly aging, his full dark hair turned grey and fell out, his muscular frame became stooped and emaciated. His face began dropping and became lined. Lifting his bony hands to his face, Yayati could feel it changing shape. Falling to his knees, he clasped his own frail hands together and implored Shukra, "O learned worshipful Brahmin, I have not yet satisfied my desires with your daughter." Devayani began wailing and rushed over to his trembling husband. "Oh, my husband, my beloved, what has happened to you?" Realizing that his curse had also adversely affected his daughter, Shukra regretted his words. She was still young and beautiful. How would she live for the rest of her life with an old and feeble husband? He had to rectify the situation. Addressing Yayati, he said, "Once uttered, a curse cannot be revoked, but you may exchange your old age with someone who will agree to transfer his youth to you." When Yayati returned to his capital, he immediately summoned his eldest son Yadu and said, "My dear son, just see my pitiable condition. By Shukra's infallible curse, I have been afflicted with decrepitude. Unfortunately, I am not yet sexually satisfied. Be kind to me and exchange your youth for my old age so I may enjoy for more years." Yadu shook his head. "How can I, young and inexperienced, agree to accept your old age? Why should you not agree? Have you not always said you desire material detachment?" "Father, what you say is true. Material detachment is favorable for cultivating devotion to Krishna. My goal in life, however, giving up enjoyment without experiencing it first, is generally impossible. I will return your youth in a few years and then you can enjoy." "Yes, I know, but that would delay the onset of my genuine detachment. I want to follow the natural course of enjoyment and detachment, for I am eager to come to the stage of worshipping Krishna without interruption." "I am your father. You have a duty to serve me, otherwise I will disinherit you." Yadu shook his head. "Though you are my father, I cannot fulfill his order, regardless of the consequences." Yayati turned his head away and dismissed Yadu. After Yadu had gone, Yayati consecutively called for Durvasu, Druhyu, and Anu and made the same request to each of them. Intoxicated by their youth and unmindful of their filial duty, they curtly refused. So after Yadu, 3 more sons, they refused. Yayati lay helplessly back, tears streaming down his face. The rudeness and refusals of his sons deeply cut his heart. He hoped his youngest son would be different. When Puru entered his father's room, he knelt beside him and kissed his hand. "O most respected father, it is I, Puru. Pray command me." Yayati's hopes rose before. Though Puru was the youngest of his sons, his behavior was superior. Feebly, Yayati said, "My dear son, do not be disobedient like your elder brothers, for that is not your duty. Your Majesty, who in this world can repay his debt to his father? By your mercy, I have received this valuable human form of life by which one can become an associate of the Supreme Lord. My dear father, the scriptures say that a son who anticipates his father's desire is the first class, one who acts upon receiving his father's order is second class, and one who executes his father's order irreverently is third class. A son who refuses his father's order issued from his father like urine. Father, I know what you desire, and I happily agree to accept your old age in exchange for my youth. You may continue to enjoy as you desire." Shukadev Goswami said, regaining his youth, King Yayati continued to rule the world, taking care of his citizens like a loving father and enjoying material pleasures to his heart's desire. Devayani completely dedicated herself to pleasing him with her body, mind, words, and all the paraphernalia at her disposal. Thus he enjoyed the greatest happiness in her company. However, Yayati never neglected to worship Lord Vishnu properly. He performed many sacrifices for the Lord's satisfaction. He distributed abundant gifts to the Brahmins, in each of them, for he knew that everything comes from Vishnu, rests on him while manifested, and returns to him at the time of annihilation. He worshipped Vishnu without ulterior motive, constantly meditating on him in his heart. My dear Parikshit, although externally King Yayati appeared fond of material enjoyment, Internally, he always thought of how to become the Lord's eternal servant. After ruling the earth and enjoying material pleasures for another 1,000 years, he realized the senses could not be satiated. Listen to what he did then. So this was the end of chapter 18, Devayani and Yayati. Next time we'll continue with the chapter 19, Yayati achieves perfection. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.